There we go.
Okay, although our whole meeting may be correct, because it was advertised as a hybrid meeting.
And they can't hear us.
I think they can hear us now.
Can you hear us now, Matt?
No. Okay. Oh, they have sound.
Okay.
You do have sound?
Can we hear them?
That's what he says.
Can we hear you?
Can we hear them?
I see.
Can you write in the chat?
Could
Move them all to.
see if they're still in that status.
no, I was about- Oh.
Ask
See,
to,
Matt is muted. I can see it in the far corner up there.
ask to unmute.
Ask to unmute. You see
Oh,
where it
the
says
blue
ask to
square, yeah.
unmute? Loud as well.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear
Can you
us?
hear us?
We can, or I can. I don't know about Marika and Libby and Jonathan. Can you promote us to panelists? Because without that, we can't share, and I don't think we can chat either.
You were promoted.
promoted.
It was
But
a
I think the
different
status
issue.
might have changed it.
We have cameras up here too.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
That's Libby.
Gotta go through
Libby,
them.
can you hear us?
I can hear you, but it's fine.
I can hear you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can you also promote Jonathan? He's our landscape architect.
We have his name.
Go to
Jonathan
attendee.
Kerr.
Yes, we saw him.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
But no, we've lost him.
He seems to have dropped off, Matt. Jonathan seems to have dropped off.
All right, let me email him.
I've been back
Yeah,
and forth
just
with him. Let me just let me.
Yeah, we're in better shape now, Marika.
Okay, let me just message him really quick.
Okay.
We're gonna have to redo.
Sorry about that, guys.
We have to redo everything.
That's all right.
Okay, so since we had difficulties with our technology, we're going to have to call this meeting to order again. It is the regular meeting of the Library Building Committee for October 16, 2025, being called to order at 7 p.m. And we will move to a roll call attendance. Tom?
Tom Pendleton, Vice Chair.
Susan Glitter, Planning Committee.
John Greco, construction background.
Vicky Gianettos, West Yarmouth Library user.
Judy Connors Tarver, Chair. We are going to slip down to, I guess, Matt, do you want to go first and then introduce G2?
Yes, although we've lost Jonathan, so we need him to rejoin. I emailed him. Libby, did you? I don't know if, or Marika, sorry, do you have his phone number? Can you text him?
Hold on. Let me see. I don't.
Okay.
So let's just hope he sees our multiple messages.
All right.
Okay. Well,
We could, I mean, I was hoping to avoid having to drag him through our presentation, but we can start, and then we have a couple of things to talk about tonight, one of which is plan development. And so we could start with that and then have him join in after that. And then we've got one more thing to talk about after that. So why don't we do
Okay.
that? So let me pull up the presentation.
all right, so we are going to our agenda item 10. Can this side.
Okay. Are you guys seeing my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So let me. Nope, hold on. What I had here. Okay,
Okay,
can you see this?
yes. So when last
Alright.
we met at the Board of Selectmen, or the Select
Mhm.
Board, we were making a presentation of our progress so far and presented them with challenges of the MacArthur School, gave them the results of the visit from your engineer and the initial concept design for the site. And then we got our marching orders to pursue this with an aim of meeting the December deadline for submission for the grant and keeping alive on the side the possibility of refurbishing, renovating, repurposing the MacArthur School. So for this part of our conversation, looks like Matt has definitely moved ahead with the concept design. So Matt, thank you. Go ahead.
All right, so
Matt, sorry, just before you present,
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that Accenture is also on the call.
Oh, good
Because I
point.
don't see them and I just want to make sure.
Nope.
He's not, no.
Okay, I'm gonna message them as well.
Okay, do you have their? Can you
I'll-
text them both,
I'll try to figure it out.
Jen? Okay, Jen and Tim. Okay. Where to begin? So we took the plan diagrams that you guys have seen up until now, and we have worked. Marika and Libby have been working to turn those into architectural plans that follow the sort of adjacencies that we had laid out, and we've modified some things based on comments that we've gotten. Mindy had sent us some specific comments about children's, and so we've reworked things a little bit there. And I will say that there's still going to be a lot of work to do to get this plan where we want it. And I think what will make sense is to have some follow-up meetings, kind of smaller group meetings with David and individuals from the staff. And maybe one meeting is specifically to talk about the children's wing, one meeting is specifically to talk about the adult program, community program staff, etc. And David can figure out who from his team needs to be in those. And so we can set those up offline, and so we don't have to feel like tonight we need to address every kind of fine-tuned comment about each wing. But we want to give you a kind of broad overview of progress. And so as you can see, this is a more concrete plan. It's now delineated with walls and doors and solid versus glazed partitions, furniture, so you start to get a sense of scale and you can kind of understand the layout. So in the adult space, for instance, you're seeing, although we have not done a collection count yet, so the shelving here is kind of a placeholder graphically until we do a collection analysis. But you can see where we've got book shelving, where we have groups of furniture. These are individual lounge chairs. There's a reference desk in the middle here. Study rooms are located along the right side of the plan. Community room, has seats now in at the front of the room is on the right-hand side here. So generally speaking, you can kind of get a sense, and I'll turn the color off here to maybe make it a little bit easier to read. So this is a first pass. There will be many, many iterations of this and revisions to this, but this was our first attempt to get this down on paper. Double check square footages of things. We've got some work still to do to tighten this up and make sure that each room is meeting what the program calls for in terms of square footage, as well as getting kind of adjacencies and access to work properly. So I'll let Marika and Libby jump in here if there are specific things that they want to point out, since they were really the ones developing these plans. Not to put you on the spot, Marika, but if there's anything in particular that you have found as you've been laying these out that, questions or concerns or observations that you've noted over the last week.
I don't know that there's anything that's that I would specifically call questions or concerns, but I guess we should point out that the community wing has changed to a certain degree, with the circulation now on the outside wall and the rooms sort of facing the woods to the east side. And we have adjusted the children's and teens wing to show the glass wall that separates teens from the hall. And then you butt into the children's wing. We show the double doors where you enter the children's, and have sort of rearranged where the story hour room, which is now on the front southwest corner of the building. And we rearranged the location of the YA workroom, which is now sitting between the children's desk and the teens' desk, with doors between the two, per Mindy's request. And then there's a private reference librarian office beyond. This isn't perfect yet, but it sort of speaks to the conversation we had on the programming meeting last week. And then right now you're facing a small corridor that oversees the bathrooms and the mother's room, with the sensory room is actually currently on the other side of the wall. So it's directly outside of children's and directly across from teens. So both can use it. And then as you can see, there's glazing both to the YA, the main teen room and the makerspace, which we can consider a flex space right now, glazing along that corridor, but a solid wall to the main lobby, so that they're not like it's not a fishbowl situation. And then we've also relocated, if you look at the adults wing, those private study rooms and group study rooms are now closer to the circulation point and sort of directly in view of the reference desk, so that the periodicals have moved to the end of the wing. But you have a much better visibility into those private meeting rooms. And then in deference to our conversations, again, we've sort of co-located a couple of computers for public use and the reference computers just north of the circulation desk, and that's adjacent to the print station to the right. Right now we have sort of a pretty large counter and a single station, but assumed that we could co-locate computers and reference computers that can print directly next to it in an open environment. And then just beyond that, you can see the staff wing. So the circulation desk butts into the two circulation workrooms. And then all of the staff spaces are directly to the east, with a sort of direct view into the director's office. We have some questions in terms of whether you want to close off that staff wing and leave it, and basically any patrons could potentially access the director's office directly from the lobby, or they can sort of enter this staff corridor. I think that's the main changes we made, unless Libby, I'm missing something huge.
I have
There-
disconnected for a bit, so I don't know if I caught all that, but I'm sure you captured it all.
This, by the way, this line here represents off hours secure closure. So we're thinking that there would be a storage compartment here, and a stainless steel curtain effectively gets drawn across this area with a track at the ceiling. And that secures this entire adult wing and the circ desk and staff areas. You would lock this door here, so there'd be no access back into the staff areas. But obviously we need to maintain access to the bathroom. So we have 2 multi-stall bathrooms, men's and women's. Those are going to have to be designated sex, single sex, that multi-stall bathrooms. But then we have opposite those, off of that same corridor, we have 2 single occupancy, gender neutral restrooms as well. So that's all part of the off hours experience. The kitchenette here serves both the meeting rooms, but also, activities in the lobby. So even if there's something happening in this meeting room, somebody could potentially get into the kitchen if you guys are going to have some kind of coffee service. We've also done it in different instances where we have a kind of coffee counter set up that's independent from the kitchen. So the kitchen can be secured and staff only, but then there's a kind of public, coffee bar or something, if that's something that you guys are interested in doing. So the kitchen, the bathrooms, storage, which is shared by 2 of the 3 meeting rooms, the large one and the classroom, the multi-purpose room, and then the large meeting room. All of that is accessible off hours, as is the lobby. The children's and teen doors would be locked. So basically all the doors in this corridor would be locked. We could actually introduce a door at this end that is open during the day, but you can close it at night to have a single point of security, so you don't have people wandering down a hallway. So that would mean that the lobby, most of the lobby with access to outdoor space on the north side of the building, this entire community wing, all the public bathrooms would be available off hours. You would use the same door that you would use normally. There isn't a special off hours door. And yeah.
And then I would also point out, sorry, I was busy with Accenture. Sorry, I don't want to repeat anything you said, Matt, but we're a little bit over right now. So the building you're seeing is slightly bigger than it should be. We need to tighten up the lobby and, shrink the wings a little bit to tighten up all the square footage. So you're looking at a building that's a little bit larger than it will eventually be as we start to right size everything and make sure that we're being really cognizant of the figures in the program document.
Yeah, and that's pretty typical at this stage. When you're first getting things down on paper, they tend to be slightly inflated, and then the more kind of iterations we go through, the more we find efficiencies and we tighten things up. Circulation we might be able to make circulation more efficient in some cases, and we get rooms right sized. Right now, my guess is that a number of the rooms are a little bit off. Some of them are probably bigger than they need to be based on what the program calls for. So there will be several rounds of that kind of tightening, along with whatever comments come out of the more kind of specific staff meetings that we anticipate having. I'm going to jump.
Excuse me, Matt.
Yeah.
Maria, or whoever's controlling the cursor, can you show me where the 2 circulation areas were? I think I heard there was a circulation area for teens and a different one for children. Okay.
Yeah.
I
So this, can you see my cursor, Judy?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm circling the teen wing now. So this is the workroom, the staff workroom that is in between the children's room, which is here, and the teen room, which is here. There's glass on both sides. On the children's room side, there's a desk here, which is the children's librarian. On the teen room side, there's a desk. There are doors on both sides of that workroom that get you into, or connect you from the desk into the workroom, both from the YA side and from the children's side. The main circ desk is here. The reference desk is here.
Thank you.
FYI, both Jonathan and Tim are waiting. So if you promote them, they can join us.
They're gonna be down
In the participants.
in the participants over there on the
Oh.
bottom. If you see where it says.
There you go.
Make them panelists.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions about the plan?
Anyone here? No?
Are there only going to be like gender neutral bathrooms?
Yes,
Yeah,
he did describe
Oh,
those. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Matt.
So one last thing with this 3D plan up, I'll mention that all of the shelving that's freestanding is meant to be low enough that you can see over the top of it, whereas shelving that's against walls could be taller. So that's going to be our starting point when we start doing shelving counts and figuring out, you know, how we shelve the collection. We have actual collection numbers, so we can start to figure out, you know, for each portion of the collection, how much shelving do we need to accommodate it. So this, as I said, this is kind of a placeholder now, just sort of intuitively striking a balance between collections and furniture. But that will start to tighten up as we get into that analysis. All right, so now that Jonathan is here, I'm going to jump back to the beginning and let him take over. Jonathan, just let me know when can you hear, by the way?
I can hear. Can you hear me?
Okay, great. Yes.
Great, good.
Just let me know when you want me to advance slides. So I'll go ahead and go to the first.
Perfect. Hi, everyone.
Okay, so Jonathan, welcome to our Library Building Committee meeting. And we're glad to have you here to present your report.
Great. Thank you so much. It's nice to see everyone. It's been fun working on this. I might at the beginning be repeating some things that have already been said, so I apologize, but it's just kind of to help set the framework for the work that we did. So I'll start with the site. We know lots about that. Just some of the existing conditions that we were looking at and that kind of helped inform also the original site plan that was shared with you all is the existing circulation around the school building, the existing parking, as well as the kind of dramatic nature of the topography up at the northeast side of the site, which we're seeing as kind of a fun opportunity, as you know. So Matt, you can move on. So this is that site plan that I know that's been shared with you, and this was kind of our starting place as we thought about the site. I'll just point out a few things here that you already know. The relocation of the access road, the kind of removal of the ring of circulation around the placement of the building at the northeast corner to take advantage of views of that ravine and that shared green and plaza that kind of connect the school building with the proposed library and the parking, shared parking. So we kind of extracted some things from this the kind of starting place to help us with some design explorations. Next slide. Sorry, next slide, Matt, thanks. So what we kind of pulled from this and that we wanted to achieve with any like further designs that we looked at were having the sense of arrival and of a singular like understanding of knowing where you're going and knowing that you're about to approach an important civic building. The connections to the town, pedestrian connections, celebrating that existing landscape and that kind of nice topography, having some kind of shared open space for the community at large, but also the schools, and then having a very welcoming entry. So that's what we use to go into our design ideas. Next slide. So I have a few options to share that kind of have different configurations of the parking and kind of landscape types. So this is the first one. Next slide. So you can see with that bold yellow line, this is our kind of path to the entry of the library. We've lost the kind of that, again, that circular a road around the school. So now we have a single path in. What we've done is we've pulled that entry road off from the parking a bit, so you're led right up to the front of the library. It kind of helps when you introduce this kind of new pedestrian connection to the town common. We have two kind of landscapes that we've created. The ravine landscape on the north, which borrows from obviously the existing ravine, and then a potential kind of informal play space that borrows again from that forest landscape. So kind of it brings the forest towards the parking lot, but then we can become a little bit more informal and fun with that space. The goal here is to also have drop off near the building with a plaza, and I'll show some examples of the kind of typologies that we're seeing here. That'll appear in all of the options, but this could be a kind of larger shared use pedestrian vehicular circulation kind of space. And then our parking area, which here is showing 100 spaces in that new lot. And I've just highlighted in the left-hand corner of all these slides what the spaces are. So these 18 spaces are the existing parking to the west of the school, those 18 spaces, and then we're suggesting another 100 spaces in the parking lot you're seeing. Another thing I'll point out is that we want to have nice kind of like landscape feel, like the building's embedded. We did want to have some view of the building from the town and the streets, so opening up that forest landscape at the north. Next slide. Oh, and feel free to hop in and ask questions along the way if you have any.
Jonathan, I have one question, and
Sure.
maybe I'm jumping ahead here. Can you go back to the other slide real quick, Matt? So are we missing where the students are dropped off? We seem to have, I don't see a school drop-off point here. And
Yeah.
am I just too far ahead on this?
Yeah, I think that it's something that we wanted to explore, worked with whatever scheme we have, so it's not included. Like the full logistics for drop off at the school aren't included here. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I
of
have a
course.
question also. Jonathan,
Sure.
what is under the competition, what is the parking requirement? It's not as big as 100, is it? I thought it was
That's a-
62 spaces.
It's a great question that we've been talking about, Matt. I don't know if you want to hop in.
Yeah, so Susan, we don't know the answer to that yet. Based on the MBLC requirement, we think that we need to provide 60 parking spaces, which is one space for every 400 gross square feet of building. Zoning, which doesn't have a specific classification for libraries, is a little bit grayer. The zoning, I think, has a category for assembly buildings, but they put things like churches and theaters, high density seating types of buildings into that category, and that's one space for every 3 occupants. If we did one space for every 3 occupants, I think we would get a number that was considerably higher than 60. And so that's something that we're going to have to, probably a conversation we're going to have with the local planning department and or building official to get a kind of sense of where they're going to fall there. I think, I think it's, for a building of this size, I would expect between 60 and 70 parking spaces. More than that, I think, is going to be difficult to achieve. The other thing is we have to maintain the spaces that are currently dedicated to the MacArthur School. And I don't recall, Jonathan, I don't know if you know off the top of your head how many spaces are in that existing lot behind the building. But these 100 spaces that are behind the MacArthur building now would be whatever is dedicated to the library, plus recreating the spaces that are existing now for the school, plus those 18 spaces that are on the west side of the building.
There are 48 spaces in the current parking lot.
Okay.
Is that 18?
A lot.
Yeah, no, my only comment is I'm remembering what, one of Tracy Post's comments the night we made our presentation, you made the
Mhm.
presentation, was sort of, she was concerned with like the grandness of the endeavor. And 100 parking spaces is a lot of space. So I think if if you have to, if the competition requires only between 60 and 70, and then we have to allocate, you have to do a very good job, I think, in justifying going almost 25% higher than that. Because 100 spaces is a lot of spaces, and she was concerned about the building, and there was no comment at all about the parking. That's a lot of parking.
Yeah,
and
we-
if it-
We agree, Susan, and I think part of this exercise was also not suggesting that this is how much parking we should build, but how much parking can we actually fit on the site comfortably. Because that's going to be part of the conversation that we have with the town. If we go to the town and we say, this is the parking number that we think it should be, and they say, well, this is the parking count that it should be based on our interpretation of zoning, then we can say, well, we can fit this many parking spaces on this site and still have room for the school. So even though we're showing all of this parking now, we're not saying that this is what we should do. We don't want to build any more parking than we absolutely need, both for cost, but also, we want to maintain as much green space as we can. So
What do
if
you
this could be a
estimate-
third smaller, we would be very happy.
Matt, what do you estimate is the cost for surface parking? What is your estimate for each parking spot?
I don't, Jonathan, I don't know if you have that figure off the top of your head. I don't.
I don't. I have it somewhere, but not off the top of my head. So
Because
Okay.
that would be a discussion point, if she
Yeah.
thought you were overbuilding. If each spot is gonna be, I don't know, $1,500, that can be substantial.
Correct.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so we'll hold that. Yeah, we've got
I think we
yep,
should be cognizant of
we
it.
definitely have to
Yep.
hold that. And Mindy,
I have a question about parking then. If we reduce the number of parking spots, excuse me, previously we had overflow parking. Because for at least 2 of our events, and not including the Seaside Festival, we can fill up 100 parking spaces or more. So where would overflow parking go if we reduce the number of parking spaces there?
Across the street at Town Hall.
yeah, in the grassy area.
yeah, we looked at that as well. I just to follow on what Matt said, all of these are the maximum number of spaces we could imagine for each scheme. So there's lots of ways to cut, but we did think, there's also an opportunity to do overflow parking on the lawns that are adjacent, depending on what we think the town's needs are. And so there's ways to configure that if we reduce the amount of paved parking, for sure.
I always believe like
Okay.
a parking
Vicky?
space is never enough. There's never enough parking space
But-
anywhere.
But remember, guys, this is gonna be a money discussion. The red flag has been raised now already.
Right.
So let's not, let's pretend we're being responsible. We are being responsible. I think it's a big mistake to try to overbuild because the Board of Selectmen is gonna say to us, why do you need 100 spots? When we are parking across the street. I'm playing devil's advocate now.
Absolutely.
Because it costs $800 to get a crossing guard so that people can cross from across the street.
Right.
Per day we use them.
Yeah, But
That's-
still, this is.
Yeah.
this is-
That's
this is
half of one
discussion.
parking place.
Yeah.
So,
Should be part of the conversation. Yeah.
yes, and we also have to think about frequency
Mhm.
of the need for that many spaces. So if it's an infrequent need, then we do have to have alternative parking, like on the green space or across the street. And I think actually that's knowing that getting a duty officer to do that is $800. That's still way less than paving. And we've certainly heard from the public that they like the green space and the trees. So, okay.
One other thing to mention about overflow parking is, even though it's cut off on these slides, in the bottom right corner of this image, there are 2 town-owned parcels that extend further south, that are
Mhm.
clear, that are level, they're just grass currently. That could be designated as overflow parking. I believe you guys park on the grass now for special events, so that could be opened up for special events where you pull into the parking lot driveway and then you peel off onto that lawn, and have parking down there, and you'd probably fit another I don't know, it's probably, you could probably get another 60 cars down there, I would guess. So that's an option.
Okay,
Great.
so Jonathan. Oh,
Yeah.
I just want to
Yeah.
make a comment here, Jonathan, because
Mhm.
I see the word on the title of this slide. So we've had a little, what do I want to say? Well, we've had several conversations and maybe a little reaction to the word ravine, as being maybe a very excessive word. So the actual definition is a small, narrow, steep-sided valley that's larger than a gully, and less than a canyon, smaller than a canyon, and it's worn by running water. And so it kind of brings to mind burros and backpacks and things like that. So we've been trying to pull away from that word ravine.
That's
So,
fair. That's
Jonathan,
fair.
we've been calling it more recently a depression.
Yeah.
It's a shallow
Subtle
depression.
depression. Yeah.
Yeah. It is pretty shallow. I mean, you know,
It
it's
is.
the when you look at the contour map, it looks more dramatic than it is in person. So
I think that
I
yeah.
did not convey that semantic change to Jonathan. So
Yes, please
Well,
disregard any use of the word ravine.
okay,
Replace it with a word of your choice. Yeah,
just a reminder, this is a library project and words are important.
of
So
that's right.
course. I will say that I think that what we found most compelling, I mean, the topography is nice because it gives you a little bit of advantage, but it's the wooded quality. So I think the planting is kind of what we would it refer to, and I think all of our thinking around it would still make sense as far as being a mini woodland, if you will, a forested area.
Enchanted forest.
there we go.
So, and to that point, we're not yet sure exactly how we access that space. If it's purely visual, if it's purely from the building, if there's some exterior access, can you walk into it? All of those are big questions, but we're open to really anything that folks think would make sense for that space. And then the idea of kind of bringing that wooded area to the front in a more open way uh, gave us this idea of a informal nature play kind of space. This isn't play equipment or anything like that. It's usually paths in wooded or even slightly open areas, just kids getting the chance to play with natural materials. So fallen logs, boulders, planting, kind of just fun forest circuits and that kind of thing. All right. And then the final type I'll just share is this idea of this mixed-use plaza, which could then expand the scope of the plaza that we've drawn here to incorporate the drop-off, depending on kind of like how how much vehicular circulation happens in that space. If there's a special event, could you close off that drop-off and make the plaza much larger? Here are a few examples that are admittedly urban scaled, a little bit bigger than what the space would be. But the idea is that there's lots of ways to have kind of pedestrian spaces that can be used by vehicles when needed, but otherwise can be turned into pedestrian friendly, open, programmable spaces. Okay. So those types appear in all of the schemes. This is the next design that we looked at. Here, instead of having a kind of a pull-off road, we've taken that space to have dedicated parking for the school, brought the driveway to the library further to the south, and then kind of created an axial kind of like drive up to the drop-off area. Oh, sorry, yeah, that's helpful. Thanks, Matt. That brings you kind of dead center onto the building and that entry plaza. We have the nature play area occupying kind of the space in between and parking on either side of that central axis to the drop off. So it gets us less parking, unless we were to severely like reduce the nature play area. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is option C. Here we have, we've brought the parking closer to the school, so that idea of shared parking might become a little bit easier with the library and the school, and their spaces that are closer to that rear entry. And then we've brought, next slide, actually, Matt, that'll be helpful again. Yeah, so we've brought that bold yellow line. That's our new path towards the drop off in front of the library. So it comes now to the south and kind of circles the parking. If you know where you're going and you want to go ahead and park, you can pull into the parking lot, but otherwise there's a kind of a clear single route to the front drop off. And here we're showing, again, 110 spaces. Lots of this can go away. There's lots of ways to play with that, but that's kind of our max that we're looking at. And then next slide. This last option kind of deviates from that idea of maintaining the current access road and creates a new path that follows around the other side of the school to the library. We thought this just provided a nice, very clear drive to the front of the library. And it requires a bit more work on that road, but it provides a kind of clearer entry arrival experience onto the site. Requires no signage that you're coming to the library. It'll be very obvious as you pass by it. We've done is we've removed then that row of 18 spaces to the west, introduced the potential for a new lot, smaller lot to the immediate, kind of immediately adjacent to the building, with the option to also have a dedicated school parking lot just to the south there. And then we have our library parking aisles to the east of that.
Okay, I think we have a question here at the table, John.
So going back to like what Susan was saying, when we had it in the other position, we were worrying about the common. Should we worry about MacArthur parking? Because anything we do to realign the roadway is only more money. And people are gonna think of that as a library thing when it's not a library thing. And it may make it all better, but again, if it's a cost, which it's a cost, then you're gonna say, who's paying for that cost? And then you're getting into sticky wickets.
It's more expensive than like 5 more parking spots.
Well, this was also one of the things I was kicking around when Matt first presented his ideas for the traffic flow. And after I went home and played with it, I didn't like it as much because it kind of complicates where the student traffic is too. So for example, a bus would come in there and then they're having to veer off and it just kind of blends all the traffic together. It seems much less safe to me.
So the expectation is they'll do a U-turn and go back out the same way they came in? Is that what you're thinking?
The school traffic,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what it's looking like to me.
That would be kind of cumbersome.
Or they have to go into the parking lot and that's still, yeah.
Well, I guess that's it.
Right.
And is all traffic rerouted on and out of 28 and no one can go to North Main Street,
Correct.
Old Main, right?
Main,
So you got to circle in and out to 28.
True, but
So there'll be no access to North Main Street.
I don't think you
Old
can.
Main.
based on-
Old Main
Old Main
Street, right.
Based on the easement was for emergency.
You can't enter from Old Main. You can exit to Old Main, but you cannot enter.
So there's a dotted yellow line, so
Yeah.
that means they could exit.
They could exit, but you cannot enter right now. It's blocked off from Old Main Street.
As of now. Okay, Mindy.
Okay, I have 2 questions. What is the distance from the front door to the end of the plaza?
You're talking this distance here?
Yes.
So it varies in the schemes, but it's much bigger than it appears. I think it's like somewhere between 60 and 80 feet.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And that's my concern is, at one of our first outreach sessions, patrons wanted to make sure that they could get very close to the door to enter the building. We've actually had people drive up on our walkway to try to drop people off at the door of the building. And the drop off only works if they have somebody to drop them off. I know other people with walkers and canes that park in the handicap spots and then walk themselves in because they're so close.
That's been a concern of mine all along too. And wondering if there is some way to enter at the end of the building there in what's the community space. Just because 60 or 80 feet, if you're using an assistive device, that's a long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else
Well, I
around?
have a second question still.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
sorry.
And then my second question is,
Oh, Matt, maybe just go to the next slide too, because we can look at all the options at once. Yeah, perfect.
okay, and my next question is there a staff spot close to the library to drop off supplies, book delivery, UPS,
Right.
all those sorts of needs?
Yeah, so this is definitely much higher level, not considering all of the logistics needs. We know that those are concerns, but didn't have the chance to know specifically what they were. So I think all of those things could be accommodated in any of these schemes once we have a better understanding of what the needs are for staff parking, and kind of logistical access to the building.
I think if you look at options, say A and C, we're getting the drop off closer to the entrance. I would not advocate for an entrance at the southern end of the community wing for a variety of reasons. I think there can be egress there, but and maybe there's like a special provision for an off hours use of a door that's down at the end of the corridor just before you get into the meeting room. But I think during the day, that's going to be problematic in terms of access. You want to have better control over who's coming in the door. I mean, we have this conversation on almost every project. You know, how far is parking from the front door? How do you get there? You know, people in high heels, people with mobility issues. And I mean, the reality is that the distance from drop off to the front door is less than the distance that you'll go from the lobby to the periodicals room or to the children's story time room. You know, it's a 24,000 square foot building. And so there is an expectation that people, even people with mobility issues, need to get from one point in that building to the other point. And that distance is in most cases greater than the distance that we're talking about from the car to the front door. I think as long as we have an easily navigable surface, it's easy to walk on. It's not gravel. It's a smooth, level surface, no trip hazards, everything's flush. There's no grade change. This is a flat site before you get to the depression. And so I think all of that makes for a fairly easily navigable pedestrian experience. I think we can certainly work on getting the drop off as close as we can to the front door, but we don't want cars that close to the building. We don't want you to be able to drive up right to the front door. I think there's an inherent conflict between cars and people. You know, when you get that close, I think it becomes very uncomfortable and frankly a little bit unsafe. So we've got to figure out how to balance that out. I think the same is true for service. And as Jonathan said, we're not quite there yet, but we'll want to talk through the different ways that this building is serviced. And that's both by staff, but by, delivery people, by the lending network vans that are going to come up and drop off books and pick up bins. And we've actually set up the plan in a way that suggests a kind of back door that is meant for deliveries and, a place to take the trash out of the building and kind of have it be behind the building. And that's sort of behind this community wing here. And so I think we'll want to look at, is there a way at the end of the community wing to get a service spot where somebody could pull a van in and then have a walkway that gets you back to that service entrance, or a trash truck that backs up and collects trash out of the back of that. So there are a lot of things like that we're going to have to think about. These were really an attempt to think about the experience of entering the site in a car, arriving at the library, dropping somebody off, parking your car, and getting there. And so you know, what, just as an example, what we found interesting about option D, granted it's maybe more ambitious than the others in terms of you know how much adjustment is made to the existing condition. But what was nice about it is that you don't have a delayed experience of circling MacArthur before you arrive at the library. You come right into the library site, you see the library on your approach, and then you drive in, you drop off, and you park. You know, so there was something interesting about that that's very different from the other three. The other three, you know, you come in along the west side of the school, you turn at the end of the school into the area where we have a driveway and parking. The other thing that Jonathan and his team have done that I think is interesting is think about how you get to the library, the front door of the library, to drop off without driving through a parking lot. And so all of these in their own way are trying to do that. And I think that's a worthwhile exercise. I mean, it creates a little bit more paving because you're creating a drive aisle that's different or distinct from the parking lot drive aisle. But it's a nicer way to experience a public building. And so these are starting points, and you know, we'll kind of fine tune things from here.
Okay. Question, Vicky?
Yeah, would it be, how much costlier would it be, for example, like an estimate, not exact, to choose D rather than C, or B or A? Because we're changing the road. Yeah, that's already there.
Yeah. It's a good question that I don't totally know the answer to, but I will say that there's already a lot of site work here to remove the existing road that we've taken away that wraps there. So I think that I don't think it's quite as dramatic as it seems from a cost point of view, just because we're impacting so much of the site currently. All of these impact a lot of the site, but I couldn't say how much more it would be to relocate that road, to be honest with you.
Would
The
the
short
school,
answer is more.
yeah, would the
Yes,
school have
more.
to-
Yes, more, but I don't know how much more. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that's a concern. And also, will the school have to allow us to do that? Because they may not
No,
like.
no, it's town property.
So
It's all
really?
town
Oh, really?
property.
Okay, that's good.
Yep.
So we won't have any issues with that.
Okay. Any other questions, comments around the table? David? Okay. He's putting them on the back burner. Jonathan, thank you so much.
Of
Nice
course.
to meet
Thank
you.
you. Good to meet you too. Thank you.
Jonathan, you're welcome to stay on. We're going to move on to our next topic, or you can hop off, your choice. But thank you for joining us.
Of course. Sounds good.
All right, moving to our next topic. One of the things, skip through the plans here. One of the things that we have discovered, what's a project without another curveball? In the copious documents that we found that Judy uncovered for us about the MacArthur building, one of them was a septic plan. So this is a septic plan for a system that was installed in 2003.
Oh my
This is overlaid onto the property. Why they put it here is beyond me, in the woods. But I know you can't read this, but over in this corner are existing cesspools that were probably part of the original building, that have been just filled with sand and abandoned. But there are two sewer lines that run out of the building, one out of the north end, one out of the west side. And they come down to septic tanks, which are in the hillside here, and then are pumped. I think these are gravity down to the septic and pumping chamber, and then they're pumped up to this leaching field. Now, if you look at that overlaid on the aerial, you can see you sort of see this depression in the tree line. So this is incredibly heavily vegetated in here, but that's where the leaching field is, according to this drawing. The septic tank and pumping chamber are here. These white lines represent the sewer lines that are connecting from the building. There's a manhole here at this elbow, and then out, pumped from this pumping chamber out to the septic leaching field. This is our building footprint overlaid on that septic plan. So, a couple of things to point out. It was built in 2003. It is 22 years old. Based on conversations with our civil engineer, it is expected to be close to the end of its service life. In addition to that, there's a tremendous amount of vegetation on top of that leaching field. That is not a good thing. You don't want plants and trees growing on top of your septic field. The roots get down into the chambers and reduce effectiveness by clogging those chambers. It also causes the biomat layer, which is the kind of bacteria layer. It's this kind of sludgy layer that is down below the septic field. That's where all of the kind of bacteria is eating the bad stuff in the sewage, so that it neutralizes it and allows it to be absorbed into the soil. When you have a lot of planting on top of a septic field like this, that biomat layer gets very thick and it moves closer to the surface, and it also then reduces the effectiveness. So based on the age and based on the current conditions, we haven't inspected this. We don't know this for a fact, but our estimation of it is that it's probably pretty close to being, at the end of its life. And what happens ultimately in a situation like this is you get backups. So I don't know if there have been any issues in the school. There is some grade change, so it might take quite a bit for it to back up into the building, because it's going down to the pumping chamber and then it's going back up the pipes to the building. So, but in any event, that's the existing condition. So what are we going to do about it? The good news is that the town is planning a municipal sewer project. As part of that municipal sewer project, the first phase is to build the treatment facility and the first areas that will have municipal sewer lines in them. The second contract in phase one, and I think there are 5 or 6 contracts that are part of the phase one sewer project. The second one, first one is build the treatment facility. The second one is install sewer main in Route 28 in a particular area, which happens to be right in front of this library site. So that's the good news. That schedule, as far as I can tell, is calling for a 2027 completion for that phase. Now we've seen this movie. We in Eastham, we designed a building that was on well water and storage, fire water storage tanks, 30,000 gallons worth of fire water storage and a fire pump, for a building that did not have any municipal water. During design, the town approved a municipal water project with a new water tower and municipal water lines, the first phase of which was going to provide a water line down the road that fed the Eastham Public Library. It did not end up coinciding with construction, and so we had to get a temporary C of O to open without municipal water, but it was a couple of month difference. So it happened, and it was a little bit painful at the time, but nobody remembers that anymore. And it's now connected to municipal water, and it saved the project probably $250,000. So in our case, it's hard to know what the timing of construction is going to be, but 2027 is about when we're going to be building this building. Assuming all goes well, we get approval at town meeting in the spring, and we get the green light to move ahead with design in summer of 2026, means that by summer of 2027, we are issuing bid documents. It takes a couple of months to bid it. We're looking at fall 2027 construction start. So it's conceivable that that the timing of this project, assuming best case scenario, it moves as quickly as it can, that the timing of it could coincide quite nicely with the sewer project. We don't
Okay,
know that
Matt,
for sure.
I'm just gonna ask you to wait. John has a question or
No,
comment.
Yeah.
So, I'll go update for everybody. So I'm on the town's Water Resource Advisory Committee, which is responsible for the sewer project. At the last meeting, the contractor of the facility did ask for a 6-month extension. So
Okay.
it's been extended into 2007. 27. So we know it's gonna be into 27.
Yep.
Obviously, until that gets built, nothing can go there. So
Mhm.
the $1 million question will be when it will be finally done. And I think everybody's anxious to then, because it's in the middle of 28. It's how each project gets hooked up to the sewer system and when it's able to go to the treatment plant. So, the next meeting's in November, might have more information after the November meeting. We're actually taking a trip to the treatment plant in the November meeting, but
Okay.
keep fingers crossed.
So, yeah, I mean, that we'll love to hear any updates that you learn for that project. This is not a deal breaker from our perspective. And like I said, what's a project without a couple of curveballs? There are two possible scenarios. One, the stars align and completion of that first phase of work aligns nicely with construction of the library project. The challenge here is less the library and it's more the MacArthur building.
Right.
We can't, sorry for my dog. We can't take, hold on one second.
Capital budget meeting, I hold the dog.
Okay, I'm back. We can't take MacArthur offline. Stop. Can't take MacArthur offline. So the best scenario would be that whatever happens, whether we're tying into the public sewer line or any other scenario, it happens during the summer when school is out of session. We talked to our civil engineer about this, and what we think probably makes sense is to, and this is kind of like the Eastham scenario where we had to design something so that we had a fallback position. In this case, I think the fallback position is a temporary septic. You put in a leaching field. We've got plenty of room, south of the building, south of the parking lot, that's level, that's town owned, that would be easy to use. It's, chances are this is pretty sandy soil. We're not going to have problems with locating a septic field. We would have to confirm any adjacent private wells to make sure that, we're staying out of that radius. But we feel like there's ample room that we could probably find a home for a septic system. That septic system would be sized for both the MacArthur School and the library, presumably, unless it was really just a temporary stopgap for MacArthur, in which case it could be sized only for MacArthur. We think that we could maintain the existing sewer lines, the septic tank, the pumping chamber, and just tie into that pumping chamber and pump up to a new septic location someplace else. The cost of that is not terrible. I mean, again, until we know a little bit more about it, it's hard to speculate. But when we asked for some kind of rough numbers from from our civil engineer, he was saying, probably somewhere under $100,000. So it's not inexpensive, but it's not a project killer either. And I think that the hope is that would be the sort of hip pocket solution, but that the real hope is that the timing would work so that the construction aligns with the sewer project. So this is a lot of kind of what ifs, and we don't really know yet. I think if we're smart, we probably build into the estimate this temporary solution with the septic, so we know what the cost is. If we don't need it in the end, great, but it would be an eligible cost. The MBLC presumably would cover their portion of that cost. So I think that's what we probably need to do. Again, I mean, it was when we saw it, we gasped.
Time out, Matt. Time out.
Yeah.
We lost you for about 2 minutes. You
Oh,
got disconnected.
Rose went, let's see, it was going to be,
The second option was under 100K and then.
yeah, right around
I
then.
just mentioned $100,000 as the cost.
okay. I don't remember what I said after that, but basically, I think it should be included in our estimate as a kind of alternate until we really know. I mean, we won't know until we're probably into design really what the true schedule implications are. We're not going to know by December, probably. We probably won't know by January when we do the estimate. So I think it makes sense to estimate this kind of fallback position, which again would be a temporary measure until you can tie into to the main. We asked our engineer if there was any way to do above ground tank storage, like a tight tank, and he said that Mass DEP really does not like that kind of solution. They probably wouldn't. Well, he said they definitely wouldn't allow it. So that's not an option. So you have to put it into the ground. A temporary septic field would just get abandoned. It wouldn't. You wouldn't have to dig it up. You would just leave it in place and disconnect it, and eventually it would just kind of just everything would just absorb into the soil.
Okay, Matt,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Yeah.
I want to go back to your scheduling ideas of summer not having school programs. And I believe there are school programs in that building. I don't know if it's fully enrolled, but by the nature of it serving special needs students, those services do run 12 months.
Yeah, there's a special ed,
Okay.
there's a summer program that runs all summer long.
Yeah, I mean, there will be disruption to the school. There's no question. Whether we're tying into municipal sewer or we're coming up with a temporary solution, there's going to be some period of downtime, and I don't think it's that long. But I would think a project like this could easily be accomplished over a summer, and my guess is that for that particular period, whether it's summer or it's some other time, there would have to be some other solution to the use of that building for that time, because we'd have to take the sewer offline to do it.
So is my understanding that the new system would be installed and then you would reconnect the lines?
Yeah,
That-
that's right.
Okay, yeah. So I'm thinking that they probably have a 1-week break in June and a 1-week break, before school begins at the Labor Day. So it's going to be just as disruptive in the summer as the fall as any other time. So
Okay.
anyway,
I have a question. You say there shouldn't be vegetation in that area, so if we keep that for the library building, isn't it gonna be a problem in the future?
no, because we would be hooking up into the
To the public
sewer,
system.
Oh,
into the
okay.
public sewer,
Okay.
and then the
That's
septic.
not gonna be used at all then? So
Correct.
it's gonna
No,
be-
just
okay.
be a stopgap.
So is it just gonna be filled or something?
What
Abandoned.
exactly?
Just
Oh, you just
Abandoned?
abandon it, just
Abandoned
leave it
underneath.
there.
Okay,
Yep.
so yeah.
Yep.
It can't be filled because the building will already be on top of it, right?
No, that's not the reason,
Oh.
but it's
There's
just,
no reason
it's
to
a
fill it.
concrete thing.
Yeah, yeah,
It's-
yeah.
It's not like a gasoline underground storage.
Yeah, it's not gonna leak because it's not gonna be used anyway. so-
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt.
So that's all we have. This was a little bit of a bomb to drop on you tonight. but we wanted to make sure that you were aware that, you know, soon after we were, and we wanted to make sure that we had enough time to think about it and talk with our civil engineer about it before presenting it to you. Again, we don't have answers per se, but I think that there are probably a couple of solutions here. A lot of it will come down to the timing of the sewer project. And again, it's something that we need to capture in the cost estimate, in our documents and in the cost estimate, so that it's part of an overall project plan and project budget.
Okay, thank you. Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment.
While
So
you're
that's,
still with,
yeah, that's all we
Go
have for
ahead.
tonight.
okay, but I don't want you to leave yet.
Okay.
Because our item number 6 has to do with communications and how we're going to direct communications. And when we began this project, we had a library director and we had an assistant town administrator. And then we moved into our orphan phase. And now we are back with personnel. So David's here and he will be here. And we have Jay Grandy, who is filling in the gap. When we lost Bill and Jane, we kind of had communications going to me and Tom, just so it all came into one place and we were, at least one of us was aware of what was going on. And then we had a slew of people at town hall that we were calling on willy-nilly, a slew of people here at the library who were helping us out. But we want to clean things up, and that related to both Accenture and to Odenzello. So I think we had pretty much, Matt was kind of getting to me with his information. And I was hoping Jay would be here. I did communicate with him earlier in the week. So I'm not sure. Matt, did you have a conversation with Jay about communications?
I didn't. I had, we had a conversation with David. We had a call with David last week, to talk about just kind of library programming, but we talked about communication in that meeting as well.
Right. I knew that happened, but I wasn't sure that there was a Jay. Did you talk to Jay?
I did talk to Jay.
Okay, so can you fill me in? So.
We didn't talk about that aspect. I did mention to him, well, a conversation. I did mention to him about the discussion that you and I had, and Matt, the discussion that you and I had about kind of how we're channeling things going forward. So I think everybody's in agreement. I think when the new ATA comes on, you know, she may be the other person or another person in this loop. But I think for now, you know, what you and I had talked about, what you and I had talked about in terms of kind of focusing things through, Judy and I, was kind of where we agreed to move forward.
Okay, and I had kind of looped Sandy in, but I think it's important. So Tim for Accenture and Tom and I, Matt and David, to be the key players. So if we are exchanging information and then getting it out to where we need to get it out to, so we get it out to, you know, you as members, and David gets it out to library people, and Jay would then talk to, you know, the IT people or whoever we need at town hall, if he needs to talk to Bob or however, where before we were skipping all over the place. Tom and I were talking to Bob, and, you know, it was a little messy. So does that work for you folks, for you, Matt?
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Okay. And Tim? Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So that was number 6. So I want to be respectful of people's times. It is 8:15. Because of our technology problems, did a lot of our meeting and that will have to be redone. I would maybe like to ask your permission to reapprove the minutes for September 25 and October 7, if we could do those agenda items. And then quickly talk about, no, let's do our future steps while all these folks are on here. Okay, so as far as future steps for this group, we need to bring this to conclusion by December. I'm not sure what folks here can do, aside from more outreach. I have to say our outreach hasn't been as rewarding as we would have hoped. We did attend Seaside Festival armed with trifolds and good attitudes, but the attendance was very, very heavy on Saturday because of the beautiful weather and the bad forecast for Sunday, and people were having a good time and buying their crafts. And they really had no interest in talking to a municipal setup. They wanted to have fun and hear the bands. So that really didn't get out to people, and we need to figure out ways to connect with people better in the community. So I think that leads us to the outreach group having another meeting soon, maybe, Linda, does that work? Okay, and reviewing some new strategies, because we're using the same ones and we're reaching the same people. So, in the past, I think, Matt, you had given us some leads with the whole Eastham group, and Linda has followed up and met with those folks. So I think we followed up with almost everything that you sent us. And before Bill left, he had pointed us to a website that was created for Mount Vernon, New Hampshire's library project. And recently someone said to me, well, does the OPM have a role in this? So sorry that just came right up, Tim, but what kind of a role would you see for the OPM to have in increasing our outreach to the community?
I mean, we can play whatever role you want us to, right? I'm not sure exactly, kind of what the question, again, like if there's an event set up, we can kind of put together the presentation, we can put together, the talking about it, but, without being in the community, I don't see us playing a huge role in the, physical, outreach of, hey, there's an event going on, if that makes sense. I might not be fully understanding your question.
Okay, could you,
Judy.
somebody restate?
I wonder, Tim, do you have,
Let's go at the table. Tom?
do you have maybe prior examples of other projects you've worked on where you've noticed or have participated in community outreach and could toss them our way?
Yeah, we definitely can. I know of a couple off the top of my head where, again, there's a lot of, kind of community meetings.
Yeah.
But from, at least from my understanding, I was not personally on the project. Jen was actually on the project, so she would have some more information on it. But it seemed as though those meetings were already kind of a pre-established meeting before this project was going on. And again, the team went and presented at these said meetings. It wasn't a select board meeting, but, kind of equivalent to that degree. I mean, I can certainly ask around and get some more feedback. I mean, again, did we lose them?
Yep, it looks like they're frozen.
Yeah.
Community outreach in Yarmouth is.
Hold on, we froze again.
We got them back for a second there, but.
Yeah. Can you guys hear us? Nope. I will text and Judy and just let them know they're frozen.
Statement with the planning committee.
Yep.
I'm going
Nope.
to
There we are.
We're back.
We're back.
Back.
the
Here we
long
go.
You're back.
range-
Okay.
yeah, the long-
Okay,
long-
okay, we froze,
Okay.
but Susan has the table.
Different point of view on community outreach. Not that it's not important, but we did the vision statement, I
Right.
did the long range comprehensive plan with it.
Right.
People will pay attention when there's an action point that will draw their attention to it, like when you appear in front of the Board of Selectmen.
Mhm.
My neighbors watched that. They wanted to hear what was going on. Then they put it aside until you come back up in front of the Board of Selectmen again. They're not necessarily involved in the particulars. They want to know how it's sort of being accepted by the Board of Selectmen, or the Select Board, I think they're called now.
Yep.
And then they'll see like a project, progress. It's really, really hard to engage the citizens of this town. They just are, the best engagement we had was with accessory dwelling units. And that's because it had a real estate impact on everyone's assessment. But up to that point, they will pay attention when they find out that I think in the minutes it says they want to have a public meeting again on November 4th for the Board of Selectmen. Is
Those were old
that's
minutes,
gone.
but that
That's
was,
gone.
then we went, yeah.
But they still want to have some sort of public, I know Forrest was very intent upon having some sort of public,
He dropped
He
it.
dropped it.
so we're not doing anything like that. Then you just gonna have to rely on the December, and now I think, you continue to do what you're doing. I don't know what else you can do, quite frankly. I think you've done a phenomenal job. I don't know what else you can do. You just have to keep being persistent. Use your homeowners associations, use your neighborhood associations, use the school, keep your trifle up to date, and just go forward. Because it will, when the vote comes in November, when we have the,
Yeah.
Public outreach is not gonna have much to do. It's gonna all be dollars and cents and who's supporting it and who isn't. I think you've done a good job with public outreach. I really have. It was viewed for a long time as just sort of the library group. It's
Yeah.
not that anymore. It's a citizen, participation group. I'd continue what you're doing, be persistent. Anytime you can give an update in front of the Board of Selectmen, I would take the opportunity to do it. Because people do pay attention to those
They
meetings.
do, yeah.
And use that as an entree to sort of beef up your, but I wouldn't run around, you've got your, Kathy's got the list of all the homeowners associations, at least in West Yarmouth, and we send the notes out religiously. And it's like, oh, thanks. But when they go in front of the Board of Selectmen, they want to know what's happening because that's like a decision-making mechanism to them.
Okay.
So I think you want to keep focusing on the program, the financing, refining the program, so that when the time comes and you have to justify this, you've got everything in line.
Okay, thank you, Susan. John?
So the only thing with that, Susan, is then timeline before the spring town meeting to to get the library.
326.
Right, to be able to say the library says thumbs up, yeah, but you want to do, there would have to be something before that, because anything they did with MacArthur
Yeah.
would never be able to be
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
So that's a big, long meeting
Well,
to try to,
It's a long, but I'm not saying don't do anything,
Right.
don't do any special events, but I don't think you want to talk yourself into, oh my God, we have to do a ton of public outreach. You don't. Everyone is aware of what's going on with the library. Everyone knows what happened with the puzzles. Why? Because it happened at the Board of Selectmen meeting. The
Okay.
lady got up at the podium and said, gee, we got a problem here. But I think that just get through December, try to meet your December deadline. make sure the Board of Selectmen knows, they will pay attention, and then we can figure out what to do January, February, and March. And that will require a lot, because then you're gonna have figures. Then you're
You have
gonna
to
have
dig in.
the come to Jesus meeting about what this is gonna cost.
Right, okay. I think Matt wanted to say something here.
Yeah, I had a question. We had, I think, identified 2 community meetings. We had one in August. And I thought the intent was always to have a second one. I think we had one actually scheduled for November 4th, which I don't know if that still makes sense, but do you guys anticipate another presentation to the community with an update of where we are, like we did to the select board?
The second one we had scheduled for October 18th or somewhere around that time.
Oh, is that what it
but
was? Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we decided to cancel
2
it.
days ago, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
October 14th.
October 14th, whatever it was. So
Okay.
should we have another one?
Well, we had
the one in
one,
August- In August.
I really,
and then we had a listening session. So we had one that was just one session, and then we had that AM
Double.
PM one.
Correct.
So
The
we've had
listening,
two
the
events.
listening session is when we did site,
Site,
for-
Site.
Right.
site. And then you did the double session. I think the other one was another double session scheduled for for October.
there was, well, it was 2 days ago. it
2
was
days
supposed to
ago,
be,
that
But
was-
then they
that was
said,
post-
don't bother.
Yeah, the select board said, don't do it.
Don't bother. Okay, so, we'll get to Mindy and then back to you, Matt. Mindy.
When we do this community outreach again, is there a way to connect with the families and with children? Because they're the ones that are expressing missing out in the meetings because of the timing. They know less about the project because they can't attend the meetings. They can't.
Although we didn't correct that last time by having a
Two.
meeting at 2 and.
We had the 2 outreach sessions
And how was
for
the attendance?
that.
They were both well attended, correct?
Not-
I know the one I went to was well
The
attended.
daytime one was
Daytime one.
very
Yes,
well
and
attended.
that's
the one I
The
went to.
evening one a little less so.
Really?
So what are they saying? When do they want us to?
I mean,
To be
school
available.
pickups, they start lining up for school pickup at 2:30. So they can't do a meeting from 2 to 3. So it'd have to be even earlier in the day to do one for parents and accessibility.
Oh, we started it.
Did we start
They
earlier?
started
Oh,
noon.
okay, I thought it was
Yeah,
a later
we
one.
started it
Okay.
Did it
early.
at noon and then you did one at
But
like
it was,
7:30.
but it was summer.
It was
Yeah.
summer.
And, so, but we can be a traveling show. I mean, we can go to where people are. That, I think, it's hard to hear about the time when we adjusted it. And like, I was willing to go to the camps and
Right.
hand things out, but
What about having
They've
something in
already-
the school auditorium? We
They've
go to the
already had
school
back to
auditorium.
school there, right?
Would that work?
They already had all the open houses and I had stuff out at the open houses, but once again, they have so little time to stop by and read anything.
an opening is,
I-
okay,
I-
Vicky.
I have a question. The Seaside Festival that we went to, it was pretty okay in the morning, and later in the day it was so windy and like people weren't like giving us any attention at all. But we gave out like a couple of flyers. The flyers are great, but like I work at a school, so I'm not sure if I'm allowed to be giving out anything.
Yeah,
I'm not-
you are, is
I'm not
there
supposed to.
informational
It's
things?
public
You would have to
information.
run them by your principal. But
She's in
Yeah.
Dennis. and-
Yeah.
Dennis, yeah,
that's DY schools.
yeah, it's
That's
Dennis
true.
Yarmouth District,
Yeah.
so.
So there's
That is
Yarmouth
big.
kids
So
there.
I've been thinking, am I allowed or am I not? Because I
You just
think I'm
run it
not.
by your
Yeah,
principal,
And usually it goes through the superintendents too.
but they already cleared.
Yeah.
They're okay with that?
With our, with the earlier stuff, they just said, "Yep."
Oh, I didn't know that.
So what specific questions or concerns?
They are receiving, they know very little
I
information,
can't
yes,
believe that.
and they can't,
They must be
yeah.
just saying that.
they can't
Because my
attend the
neighbor
meeting.
Who has no
Yeah.
kids at all and is 87 knows about the library project. How do these parents say they don't know
Right,
about
what
it?
is the conduit that
Nice.
we're missing
Nice.
to the parents?
How
I
can
guess,
they
is
not know
that,
about it?
I think in the parents' defense, they're more focused on what's going on with their child versus what's going on. They're
Absolutely.
not so much focused on what's going
Well,
on.
that- this sort of
in
makes sense.
town.
Yes.
Generally, people in town feel that way. You're right.
And the, we had the idea of doing lawn signs, but the funding for that never material, no,
no,
it
no.
didn't.
That was
Funding,
approved.
But where does it come from to place the order? So,
Well, I don't know the workings within the town, but Bob said you could do it. So however you requisition something, it doesn't need to come out of library operating. He said he would cover it.
It should be a town, it should be a town
It's
expense.
administrative.
It's definitely a town administration
I have a
expense.
question for you.
So,
Can we
Mama,
get your
Mama,
brochure?
So David, if you could run Heard on that. So they were lawn signs that just had the QR codes on it.
Do
And
we have
then,
public access television in this town?
yes,
Can't we just run something on a loop?
probably. Yep.
That would
And,
help.
and maybe go on public access and just do, a short, couple of us go
They
on.
said we could do a podcast or something. I think this should go on the outreach agenda, to
There-
beef this up. And this would have been, Jay may have had more for this. Matt,
There are a couple of good examples out there of kind of promotional videos that have been done. Orleans did one for the Snow Library, which was kind of establishing the need. I just saw one recently for what library was it? It's on the Cape, not far from you. That's doing a new library. I'm blanking on which library it was, but it was a library that has gone through the design process, and the video kind of showcased the design and talked about, what it was going to do for the community. I thought it was well done. It was professional.
okay. And we do have those capabilities. I'm just at a loss on how to do any of that. We have the professional people in the town who can do that. They're busy, but we need to be able to tell them, what do we want? What do we want to go on the radio? What
What's
do
our
we
message?
want?
What
Yeah,
is our
what's our
message?
message?
What do we want people to know?
And we're not PR professionals, so we need a little help with that.
But like Matt said, that Orleans video, I think, is incredible.
It is very good. Yeah,
You don't need to do much more than,
tell the story.
Was that the one that was professionally done?
no, they said
No.
their library
People
group,
do it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought broadcasting media could help. for
Maybe,
free- For
may-
free.
maybe.
I know
Again, we
one
have
of the
to figure
ladies
out
there.
What is our message?
Right.
What do these parents want to hear
Yeah,
that would say, oh, let's listen and see what this is.
yeah, I think that's the thing.
What do they
um,
need to know?
no, I think a video would be a great help in getting that out to the parents. Quick, short information that they can watch all at one time, and then
I think we can show it in
Yeah.
schools.
finding a way for them to get attendance at voting is, yeah,
There you go.
that's, yeah.
What's the end game?
But yeah, I think just having the quick, short things we could share on social media, the videos, the websites, and having that will cover a lot of the bases, as opposed to having to dig through all the
So
information
do
to
you
find
think
what
they
they're
want
looking for.
actual information, like the size of the building, that kind of thing? What do
Probably
they-
a summary of kind of as much as we can give them, as much information that works in a quick little presentation.
So
It
the
could be more
sites-
than one too.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
equally, however, I think we have to get to a place where we have something that's a lot more finished, if you will. Because
Yes.
Right now, we're not at a
Speculative.
stage, if we are, the whole purpose is to present an image to people in a sort of very easily digestible form. You need to have the form, and I think the crux of the issue right now is that we're not really there. So there's still a lot of hypotheticals here. We don't have a lot, we have a lot of, we don't have final renderings. We don't have, these are the things that people are gonna wanna know that can be distilled down very quickly to a message that they can understand without, digging through. There's a ton of information on the existing website, but it's only the sort of thing that's going to appeal to someone who has the time and energy to bore through all of this. We
Oh,
need something,
yeah,
when we
government
have something that,
works.
once we get to the point where we're submitting renderings, then I think we can really talk more clearly about what it is that we're putting, because we'll have something that's like, this is it, this is what
Yeah,
it looks
but-
like, this is.
We know what we have in the two libraries. We know what we want. You you have a new library that's gonna give you all the things that the current two libraries don't give you. Light, there's no light, right? I mean, being able to easily access all areas without, people with mobility. All that's gonna be in the new building. You don't need clear renderings to know the improvements of how you're going, right? Again, and even with the flies, it's a building on. You need to get them excited that says, here's what we have, but here's what we're going to possibly get. And that's how I view what Orleans did. Here's everything we have, but here's what we could get. So again, you got to get them excited for what is to come. Because again, they're either happy with what it is, or they're not necessarily happy because I can't go down the stairs, I can't do this, I can't do that, I don't see any light, what am I gonna do? Those are all the things you want people to get excited about, and you don't need final renderings to do that. Or else then, as Susan said, they're not gonna get excited till at the end of the day when there's a final decision being made. The people will get excited who want to get excited. Other people, you never may be able to access them.
Yeah, I think people will get on the train at different places, at
Yeah.
different stations.
Yeah.
And some people are not, the people who want to dive into all the nitty gritty and where we've been, we already have them. And then as we go further, we pick up more people. And I think those are the people you want to get, John. Is show them what we have, and if you're interested, you'll get on the train, whether that's to vote yay or nay. I'm not saying it's only positive, but some people just need more. They need more to see. They need more to touch. They need it more.
Hyannis was the other library that I was trying to think of that I saw a video recently. I don't know if anyone has seen it, but it was very well done. And to David's point, that video, unlike the Orleans video, happened kind of more towards the end of the process. They had a finished product, they had renderings, it was clear what they were doing. But Judy, I think like you said, people kind of enter the story here at different points. And I think I could imagine a kind of two different promotional videos, one that happens sooner that is about the need, and then the other one that happens at the end, as David is describing, that is more about this is what we are proposing, and that's more about getting support in advance of Springtown meeting, I think. And there's also, there's two kinds of outreach. There's outreach to the community to support the project, at town meeting, with taxpayer dollars, but there's also outreach to buy a foundation or whatever you guys set up as your fundraising arm to do the private fundraising that is a required part of this grant formula. So there are different ways that outreach should be approached, and the way that you approach donors is probably different than the way you're trying to appeal to the general public.
Very true, very true. Okay. I am going to retract my request to redo the minutes, and we've been here for a while, and in the interest of fatigue and well, so that's what we need to set up. So I would like to set up two if we can.
And we'll just clean up everything at the next meeting.
Yeah, and in the interim, I would like to have the outreach people meet. So, do you want to stick to Thursdays?
Yeah, so that would be the 30th.
The 30th work for folks?
What time?
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to 6. Does 6 o'clock work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or earlier if possible.
Yeah, why was it 6? Were we waiting? Oh, it was Dorcas.
We couldn't get Dorcas.
It was
Dorcas.
Okay.
I always like work till like 4.
Okay, so you're good.
That was the library. Yeah.
Oh, that was tonight's, yeah.
Got there till
I crashed
6:30.
it
So 6
anyway.
o'clock on the 30th?
Yes, all right. And then let's set up one for November. So the 13th,
The special time meeting's on the 17th.
Right.
right, that's exciting.
Lobsters and boats.
13th?
Okay, 11/13 at 6 o'clock
o'clock.
also.
6 o'clock.
Okay.
And are both here at the library.
Yeah, so do we need to do anything about this the tech issues?
I didn't have my computer this evening. I had gotten it all worked out was the issue.
So you actually kind of put this together with the Band-Aid and some
Mhm.
chewing gum, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
and the,
Kudos.
and the
Yeah.
time between the two meetings didn't leave time to check anything, to get everything extra set up, and it was a perfect storm this evening of,
But you
Okay.
did it. You did a
Yeah,
good
you
job.
did
Yeah.
it, so thank
You
you.
did a good job.
I eventually
Alright.
got there.
Put that on your resume. Other duties as assigned.
Any closing? Okay,
My assumption.
all right. Thank you, Marika and Matt. Nice to meet you, Jonathan. Hey, Tim. So we are going, can I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank
Second.
you, sir. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
That's good enough. Okay, thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks all.
Right.
Bye.
These are extras. This is all proprietary information, so you should take this.
Yes, okay,
I
thank
could
you.
shred those.
You have a shredder here?
Okay.
And these are extra minutes.
Yeah,
Although
that's
won't we
extra
even-
packet